Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever wondered why so many incredibly smart, hardworking founders completely fail to get their businesses off the ground? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going deep into Jonathan Reed's brilliant book, Start a Business from Zero. Today is essentially a masterclass in finding real, tangible business opportunities that are just hiding in plain sight. Instead of sitting around waiting for some magical spark of inspiration to hit, we're going to learn a systematic craft. Get ready because we're about to completely shift your perspective. So asking yourself, what should I build? Or hey, what's a good idea? Sounds entirely harmless, right? Let me tell you as a mentor, it is actually the most dangerous, exact wrong question any beginner can ask. When you start with that question, your brain just goes in the complete wrong direction. You start relying on your imagination instead of actual observation. You end up inventing abstract concepts that are completely detached from reality. To find real, viable opportunities, we have to stop inventing and start noticing. So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the wrong starting question, then learn how to become a problem hunter. After that, we'll dive into the problem observation log, how to overcome familiarity blindness, the link between emotion and market value, and finally, analyzing friction for real opportunities. All right, Section 1, the wrong starting question. Let's talk about why you need to stop inventing and start actually observing. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast. It's a fundamental truth that businesses do not exist because of great ideas. They exist because there are problems that desperately need solving. But human psychology absolutely loves to jump straight into solution mode. Generating ideas just gives us this false sense of control. But building a solution for a problem nobody actually has, that's exactly why most startups fail. Look at the difference here. On the left, we have the beginner relying on internal imagination, basically guessing what people want and falling right into the trap of cognitive bias. But on the right, we have the professional method, external observation. Behavioral science proves time and time again that observing real friction and gathering actual behavioral evidence is infinitely more reliable than guessing. People's actions reveal their true priorities way more clearly than their words ever will. Moving to Section 2, become a problem hunter. It is time to tune your radar to the static. Starting today, you are stepping into a brand new identity. You are now a detective of frustration. Think of everyday annoyances as literal static on a radio radar. Your job isn't to be traditionally creative, it's to tune in to that static. Let's look at 3 super concrete examples of what this static actually sounds like in the real world. First, forgotten passwords and the absolute nightmare of resetting them. Second, long, confusing online forms that just seem to go on forever. Or third, that tedious back and forth of scheduling a meeting across like 15 different emails. A beginner sees these and just shrugs, thinking, well, that's life. But a professional hears that static and sees a pure market signal. These are ordinary, everyday problems that someone is currently enduring. So how exactly do we transform those minor irritations into identified market needs? The process takes discipline, but it's wonderfully simple. Step 1, notice the friction. That's literally any moment something is slower than it should be, causes confusion, or just takes way too much effort. Step 2, record the exact complaint. Don't paraphrase, write down the exact words people say, like, why on earth does this take so long? And step 3, identify the underlying gap. Whenever someone complains, they are actually describing the gap between what currently is and what should be. And right inside that gap, that's exactly where your future business lives. All right, Section 3, the problem observation log. Let's look at the toolkit required to systematically capture this real behavior. Let's be real, human memory is notoriously terrible. If you just tell yourself, oh, I'll remember that great problem, trust me, it'll be gone in an hour. That's why Jonathan Reed proposes a simple but massively powerful tool, the problem observation log. And this brilliantly illustrates how it works. Imagine you're in a coffee shop. That's your environment. Your observation? Customers are constantly squinting at the menu, hesitating, asking the barista a million questions. The possible problem isn't that people are slow. It's that the menu is visually unclear. Or take your office. You notice staff constantly struggling to find shared files, leading to lost time and silly errors. The underlying problem is a completely busted organization system. What looks like a minor inconvenience to an employee might be costing that company thousands of dollars a month. These opportunities are literally hiding in plain sight.
Section 4, overcoming familiarity blindness. Let's explore exactly why these obvious problems hide so well.
Before we go any further, I need to warn you about a massive trap that catches almost every beginner. When my students start keeping an observation log, they almost always complain that the problems they find are just too obvious or too simple. This reaction stems from a really common cognitive bias known as familiarity blindness. You see, our brains are incredibly optimized to save energy. When you spend every single day in the exact same environment, your brain simply stops processing the details. You start ignoring recurring friction points and you just accept them as normal. But listen to me, normal does not mean solved. Just because an annoyance is common absolutely doesn't mean it isn't the perfect foundation for a profitable company. There's this fantastic metaphor in Reed's book that perfectly captures this concept. A small stone in your shoe is not a major issue, but you would still pay to remove it. Think about that. You don't need to look for some revolutionary Mars landing level problem right out of the gate. Massive business success is so often built on solving issues that are just consistently deeply annoying. A stone in your shoe isn't going to kill you, but if you're on a 10-mile hike, you will gladly hand over your cash to someone who can help you get your shoe off. The crucial takeaway here is that a problem doesn't need to be dramatic to be a highly profitable business idea. Section 5. Emotion and market value. This is how we measure a customer's actual willingness to pay. Okay, so once we start catching all these stones in the shoe, how do we separate the harmless grains of sand from the actual business opportunities? We do it by assessing the market value through emotional intensity. Look at the left side. When a problem is just a mild inconvenience, neutral, easy to ignore, people rarely open their wallets to fix it. But look at the right. When a problem carries high emotional intensity, when it's urgent, time-consuming, and makes people literally say, "I absolutely hate doing this," boom, that is where the magic happens. Frustration is the single most powerful indicator of an unmet need. Period. The more pain, stress, or wasted time a problem generates, the higher their willingness to pay. If a problem is easy to ignore, I guarantee your product will be easy to ignore too. Finally, Section 6, analyzing friction for opportunities. Let's talk about evaluating what you found. So you've collected a massive list of complaints in your log. Awesome. Now we shift from being a detective to being an analyst. Because a single isolated complaint, that's not a business yet. We need to see if a consistent market pattern emerges from your notes. Step 1, generate a list of 30 problems. And I mean 30. Prioritize quantity over perfection here. You need to force your brain to look wider. Step 2, aggressively look for repeated patterns. Are multiple frustrations pointing back to wasted time? Or maybe a specific communication breakdown? Patterns prove that a problem is systematic, not just a one-off fluke. Step 3, assess the emotional signal of those complaints. Pay very close attention to the notes where people use the strongest, most urgent, most frustrated language. To really sharpen your radar, I want you to treat this slide as your daily habit homework. Over the next 48 hours, I challenge you to actively observe and record 10 new problems in your environment. When you're talking to people, write down the exact phrases they use when they complain about something. And most importantly, whenever you personally feel annoyed, I want you to pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, why exactly is this so annoying? And how could this be simpler? If you introduce these small questions into your daily routine, I promise you'll quickly start seeing obvious opportunities everywhere while everyone else just sees a dead end. So the crucial point of this entire explainer is this. The best business ideas are not created, they are noticed. The entire game of business isn't played inside your own head. It's played out there in the real world. We absolutely have to stop asking, what should I create, and start asking, what are people already actively struggling with right now? If you build a business based on real observed problems that cause actual emotional friction, your chances of success don't just increase, they skyrocket. I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. What invisible stone in your shoe are you completely ignoring right now that someone else out there would gladly pay you to remove? Seriously, instead of sitting around waiting for a stroke of genius, just look around. The world is completely full of systematic breakdowns and daily friction points, all patiently waiting for someone to finally pay attention. So arm yourself with your new problem-hunting radar, step outside, and start observing. See you in the next explainer.